I made this video to help resolve one of the biggest problems facing mankind, our food supply and consequent health. My short-term objective is to save 100,000 people before the end of 2025 from having a limb amputated from diabetes. This video shows how, technically, this can be done, if I can find a way of getting the message out. When I ask for help from internet marketing experts, they tell me I'm doing it all wrong. In our modern information society, people are just dumb donkeys with the attention span of a grasshopper. Prove them wrong. True, it is long, and there are no car chases, sex fiends and half-naked ladies frolicking in waterfalls or pub fights to grab your attention. But I have compromised by adding this preview in the hope that it will inspire you to watch the video through. This is what to expect. First, to analyse the facts and come to the highly controversial conclusion that the issue is not an excess of sugar and fats, but a deficiency in gut-brain food. Simply eating less is not the solution. We need to eat more of the right sort of food that feeds our gut brain, which regulates our bodies. A healthy gut brain needs the right sorts of microbes in our gut. But I'm an engineer. I use science as a tool to provide solutions which will work for the 8 billion people on Earth. So secondly, I have to take my analysis and work out a practical solution. Probiotics, if they work, which is doubtful, is not a practical solution. We need to eat plants grown in living soil full of the beneficial microbes. But the majority of people live in cities, often in apartments with no garden. Where do they get the living soil? When I suggest that they should put out a tray of bird seeds, and the birds will deliver, free of charge, little capsules full of nutrients and beneficial biota, people think I'm a nutter. Pigeon poo has a far wider range of beneficial microbes than any commercial probiotics. Just add it to the soil mix and grow plants full of living biota. Eating fresh baby greens as a juice or salad before main meals would be the difference between you becoming fat and sick and like 8 million people every year having a limb amputated from diabetes. At this point, you'll be quite justified in thinking I'm some sort of green nutter. I can live with that. But I don't want you missing the message that could save 100,000 legs from amputation. So, not for my ego, but for credibility for my arguments, let me say I was once a pioneer of computer-aided engineering. I solved complex coupled partial differential equations that had never been solved before. I was recognised by the Institute of Engineers as one of Australia's leading innovators, and I built up a company that was the country's leading exporter of technical softwares. I was recognised as the world leader in my somewhat niche area of computational fluid flow. I was jeered at when I suggested that some flow problems could be solved by using flow channels smaller, which goes against common sense, but was proved to be correct. So please just hesitate when I suggest that pigeon poo may be the practical solution for providing the 8 billion people on Earth a healthy gut. The scars on my back from trying to introduce paradigm changes show I've learned a little bit about how to create change. So now comes the third and biggest problem of getting widespread adoption. Innovators by themselves rarely change community attitudes. This is done by a social change, where other people try the new technology for themselves, find it works, tell others who form a second tier, then a third tier and a fourth, and what was thought of as a nutty idea becomes the accepted norm. So, even these three stages are not enough. Targets have to be set and plans developed to reach these targets. My immediate target is to save 100,000 people from having a limb amputated from diabetes before the end of 2025. That's 8 million people a year have a limb amputated. This may seem a puny target, but it is achievable. And once the rock starts to roll down the hill, it will pick up its own inertia. Diet and feeding the gut brain may be the big issue, but genetics still play a part, maybe a small part, so some people will not avoid having a limb amputated. So to save 100,000 amputation, we need to work with 150,000 diabetics. There is no way I can help 150,000 diabetics myself. So let's work backwards. 5,000 people knowledgeable in the gut biology technology of growing gut-brain food could each act as coaches to groups of 30 diabetics, giving us the support structure for the 150,000 diabetics. So how do we get 5,000 trained coaches? Well, I've been working on the G-biology technology for many years now, and I can name at least 200 people who would make excellent coaches to the coaches, given the right incentive. So what's in it for them? The same as what's in it for me. In a world which has gone crazy, where so many people seem obsessed with greed, money and power, and kill other humans on an industrial scale, the feeling that you are one of the last few humans in existence that is prepared to work for the benefit of other humans. Humans are the most successful creature on the planet because we are both intelligent and naturally cooperative. We enjoy cooperating. Okay, let's start the video. My name is Colin Austin, the founder of the G-Bioto movement. I'm 84 years old, fit and healthy. Most days I go for a long walk in the neighbouring bushland, ride my bike and dig my garden. I don't blow my top when medical experts half my age tell me how to increase my lifespan. That is until they start telling me things which are wrong and make things worse rather than better. So let me tell you about life. When I was a kid, people worried about infectious diseases. We did not get vaccinated. If a local kid came down with a childhood infection like chickenpox, a mum would set up a chickenpox party so we kids caught chickenpox or whatever and would develop immunity. It was like a rite of passage. The disease we feared most was polio. I had an aunt who predated Sigourney Weaver in Aliens by having an iron exoskeleton so she could clump around. Modern chronic diseases like diabetes no doubt existed, but were rare, and most people, including myself, did not even know they existed. But over the years we all made dramatic improvements in medical science, overcoming many of these infectious diseases. But then we replaced these infectious diseases with an epidemic of chronic or non-infectious diseases, in particular diabetes, heart attacks and dementia. This did not happen by some fluke of nature. It was man-made, unintentional but still man-made. Science developed a whole range of powerful technologies like mass spectrometry and DNA testing, which gave us an insight into these chronic diseases. Biochemistry became a highly sophisticated science, telling us the most intricate details of the chemicals in our bodies. The wrong fat in the wrong place is the underlying cause of these chronic diseases. Fat in the pancreas prevents the production of insulin. Plaque in the arteries prevents the supply of oxygen to the heart, and amyloid plaques lead to dementia. Medical scientists apply the laws of thermodynamics and conservation of mass, normally in the domain of engineers like myself, to the human body, with disastrous results. This led to the widespread view that we got fat because we ate too much, and the solution was to eat less and exercise more. Now, while we can debate the wisdom of applying these engineering laws to the human body, it totally misses the point. Of course, these basic laws apply to the body as well as everything else, but eating too much is not the reason why we get fat. Biochemistry may be an exceptionally powerful tool. It is still just a tool which does not get the real reason why we get fat. It is the wrong tool. A hammer is a very good tool, but is not a good tool for smashing open a bottle of wine. While our bodies must conform to the fundamental laws of physics, they are not the driving force that makes our bodies work. Our bodies have an intelligent control system which regulates our bodies, particularly how much and what sort of food we want to eat. It starts learning from birth, when mum teaches us that her breasts are a good source of food. It continues learning throughout life. It can sense we are short of a particular nutrient and learns what type of food will satisfy that need. We see this in action every time we dig our gardens on a hot summer day. We sweat and lose that complex combination of salts needed in our blood. So when we take a break, we do not crave sweet food, even though we have used up a lot of energy. We crave foods that will replace these salts. We see this in people who have been deprived of food, like in wartime. Our control system learns, and when food becomes available, it sends out signals for us to eat as much as we can and store more fat. We repeat this with calorie-restricted diets. We are training our control system that it needs to store more fat. This is the crunch point. We do not store fat simply because we are little piggies and eat too much. We store fat because our control system is attempting to protect us from food deficiencies by sending out signals, hormones and electrical signals saying eat more so it can store more fat. Eating more is not the cause of people getting fat. It is enabling our control system to store more fat. This is a big deal. Chronic diseases have largely replaced infectious diseases as a major health threat. They are now the dominant cause of death. I'm told that 80% of deaths are from chronic diseases. The social and financial costs to modern society are huge. 8 million people have limb amputations from diabetes. This may not affect lifespan, but it certainly affects health span and the quality of life. The underlying cause is deficiencies in our modern diet. Our modern food system is a highly efficient producer of bulk or energy food, sugars, fats and carbohydrates, enough to feed the entire world with energy food, but it has two fundamental deficiencies. The simplest to solve is a lack of trace minerals, which is easily solved by taking the appropriate supplement. Far from ideal, much better to eat the right sort of food, but supplements can work. This is highly profitable for the food and supplement industries, which is dominated by large, profit-oriented companies, so it happens. But by far the most important is the food that feeds our intelligent control system, our gut brain. Our gut brain has trillions of cells which communicate with each other, providing genuine intelligence. Our gut brain controls our appetite, manufactures many of the complex chemicals our bodies need, and powers much of our immune system. If you want to have a long and steady life, you just have to feed your gut brain. We need to feed the existing microbes in our gut. This is relatively simple. The main food is fibre, which is readily grown. But that is not enough. We also need to be introducing new microbial life into our gut. That is much more difficult. Microbes breed like crazy. There is no problem about breeding microbes. We need to breed the right sort of microbes. There are a whole spectrum of beneficial microbes which we need. But there are also harmful microbes which can make us sick or even kill us. We can solve this by creating the conditions which favour the beneficial microbes so they outcompete and outbreed the harmful microbes. This is a key part of the G-Biter system, but it is not our invention. It has been going on naturally for millions of years. This is relatively easy done. Even people living in an apartment can grow their own gut-brain food. Microbes may breed very fast, but they also die very fast. An hour in the life of a microbe may be equivalent to a human year. This is not a problem for the home growers who can have plants growing containers in their home, so they just pick and eat. But it is a major problem for the current food system, which is based on large centralized growing, often in monocultures with an extended distribution system. In the short term, people can grow their own gut-brain food. This is a solution for many people, but everyone on this earth needs to have a healthy gut brain. Long term, we need a system of local growers, a totally different scenario from our current food system, which is dominated by a small number of very large corporations who dominate the market. G-Biter's first aim is to show people how to grow their own gut-brain food. It is neither desirable nor practical to set up a global operation supplying gut-brain food as a supermarket shelf item. The big question that people have to ask themselves is this. Across the globe, People living in a modern society are getting sick and dying from non-infectious diseases, which is a result of deficiencies in our food system, dominated by a few mega companies, dominated by short-term profits. Is this really what we want? Our current food system is, however, very efficient in producing large quantities of energy food, sugar, fats and carbs, which are our primary food source. It is difficult to believe that they would have the desire, let alone the capability, of creating a local industry to provide the relatively small but essential amounts of gut-brain food needed to supply the community with gut-brain food. We can go to the supermarket and think that the shelves will remain full of food way out into the foreseeable future. So why worry? The 8 billion people on Earth generate an astounding amount of waste, which is full of nutrients that have typically been mined, and there is a finite supply. Phosphorus is essentially for plant growth, and is top of the list for critical minerals which will be exhausted, certainly in the lives of our current children. But this applies in a less urgent way to all the nutrients we currently mine. In the short term, we can recycle food waste, which is precisely what the G-Biter system does. But in the longer term, we will need a major revolution in recycling waste, which is likely to come from reprocessing seaweed, which effectively captures all the organic waste which we dump into the sea. We can learn a lot about how social movements occur by studying the climate action movement. This is a close analogy to the food industry, with a small number of mega corporations in the fossil fuel industry that were making large profits and had the capacity to influence government. But the climate action started from a little schoolgirl sitting out in the freezing cold outside the Swedish Parliament with a grotty cardboard sign. Now let's be clear, politicians, even from the Swedish Parliament, let alone from around the world, did not stop to talk to Greta Thunberg. But a few people just passing by stopped to talk and thought she had a point. Then these people talked to other people, creating a second tier, who in turn created a third, then a fourth tier. And soon there was a global climate movement, which the politicians could not ignore. We must learn from this, because having a food supply that keeps us healthy is a sister to climate change. In a country like Australia, which can go from below freezing at night to 40 degrees C in the day, a couple of degrees of warming may not seem worthwhile worrying about. But it affects rainfall, and coupled with the degradation of our soils, will inevitably lead to a food crisis. This will cause unimaginable difficulties, mass migration of desperate, starving people, political instability within countries, and conflicts between countries. Have no illusions. This is something that we must take all steps to avoid. And we have two overridingly powerful weapons: the power of public opinion and the power of the wallet. So, if you share these views, why not join the G-Biter movement? You can start by joining the free section of the G-Biter web. Later you can upgrade, learn how to make G-Biter beds and boxes, and participate in our community.